Correct. And you would just stand there like a fool if you made a joke and it went horribly wrong. Do you understand? You are familiar with the sensation. The first television superstar was Milton Berle, because to him, TVs were sold out in stores in 1948, restaurants closed early on Tuesday nights, and crime rates decreased. Every week, 80% of Americans watched him. However, hardly one took attention when he passed away from cancer. He had been entirely forgotten by the very industry he founded. In a book, his own son called him a monster. He last garnered media attention for groping RuPaul live on television. Uncle Miltie, as they called him, passed away by himself without the cheers that had characterized his whole existence. The stage mother who went too far was Sarah Berlinger, who subsequently changed her name to Sandra Berle when her parents dissuaded her from pursuing her ambition of being a successful show businesswoman. She determined her son Milton would live it for her. When Milton demonstrated a talent for humor as a young child, Sarah gave up everything, her husband, her other children, her entire life, and concentrated only on turning him into a household name. To match his notoriety, she even altered her own name. She would intentionally make loud noises when she was in the audience to help Milton win over the audience. In an attempt to get attention, she forced him onto stages without his consent and ran the risk of being arrested. She had a significant impact on Milton's life, as everyone knew, but at a high cost. Milton was left to bear the burden of her dreams when his father and siblings were disregarded. He said later in life that his mother had given Gypsy Rose, Lee's mother, the appearance of Mary Poppins. Milton's early years vanished virtually before they started. He began appearing in silent movies when he was only 5 years old. The Perils of Pauline, released in 1914, was his debut motion picture. Milton worked while other children played in the parks. Before turning 8, he starred in over 50 silent films. He starred alongside Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. In Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm and The Mark of Zorro, his career was exchanged for his boyhood. Due to his father's illness and inability to work, he supported his entire family as a vaudeville and movie veteran by the time he was in his teens. There was tremendous pressure. Milton's narrative also demonstrates how Hollywood frequently exploited gifted children at the expense of their pleasure and well-being. Milton's childhood took a darker turn when he was 12 years old. Later on, he claimed that a chorus girl had robbed him of his virginity. Children weren't safe in the VA world. It was jam-packed with risky scenarios, adult humor, and late nights. Milton was thrust into this adult world too soon, despite the fact that his mother was constantly close by. There were multiple negative moments in that event. It demonstrated how the entertainment industry does not safeguard its most promising stars. Milton said that the experience influenced his perspective on relationships for the remainder of his life. Sarah had influence over more than just Milton's career. She also controlled his romantic life. Sarah found a means to break up with a girl if he saw her more than 3 times. He found it difficult to build genuine relationships because of her hold on him. He chased women in an attempt to show that he wasn't a mama's boy, but he was always dependent on his mother's approval. Milton hardly ever attended school. He attended the New York Professional Children's School, which was established in 1914 for children employed in the entertainment industry. Although the school allowed him to continue with basic instruction, its main goal was to support children in their endeavors. Milton was raised in a world of rivalry and celebrity, surrounded by other child stars. Later on, he felt isolated from everyday people. He lived in a world of praise rather than playgrounds. Joke theft was another claim to fame for Milton. A clever joke in vaudeville might keep a performer going for years. However, Milton stole content so frequently that he was dubbed the thief of bad gags. In one of his gags, Bob Hope said he enjoyed watching Berle on TV to gauge the success of his jokes. On air, Berle even ridiculed himself for it. In a 1947 radio interview, he declared, "I'll have more jokes than I can step handle." The moniker persisted, but it increased his notoriety rather than damaging him. Milton was a well-known performer in New York by the age of 21 in 1929. He headlined large venues and did 6 gigs a day. He performed in 553 Ziegfeld Follies shows during their run. He performed on the largest stages at venues like the Palace Theater. He never stopped working, switching between Broadway, movies, and vaudeville. He became one of the most well-known comics of his era because to his mother's perseverance and his own talent. In 1920, Milton made his Broadway debut in Florio. At the age of 12, however, it wasn't a major setback. Acting in movies, and even taking first place in a Charlie Chaplin look-alike competition. He had already been employed for 7 years. His mother continued to press him, to grab his attention. She once even flung him into the stage during an Al Jolson performance. Because of his upbringing, Milton was constantly in need of praise and had to prove himself. Milton astonished audiences in the 1920s and 1930s by performing comedy and drag. It was illegal to wear women's clothing on stage at the time. In any case, Milton did it. He was featured on the cover of Newsweek because of his outrageous Carmen Miranda act. His drag routines were so well liked by 1948, when he was on theater, that crime rates decreased while the show was on because everyone was watching him on television. Long before drag comedy gained popularity, Milton introduced it to the general public. Not all of Milton's attempts were successful. He had a series of unsuccessful radio shows in the 1930s and 1940s. In 1934, he launched his first performance. Then followed Kiss and Makeup in 1946 and Three Ring Time in 1941. None persisted beyond a season. To concentrate on radio, he even declined nightclub jobs paying $25,000 per week, but to no avail. He was regarded as radio's most well-known failure. He required a stage or a screen for his style. Something that occurred on June 8, 1948, permanently altered the entertainment industry. The first edition of Texaco Star Theater from Studio 6B at Rockefeller. The center was broadcast by NBC. It was more than a brand new program. The TV variety format had just begun. Additionally, it was the evening that Milton Berle became the first television celebrity in America. The program featured live ads, comedy segments, music, and vaudeville performers. It was new, exciting, and enjoyable. Texaco did more than only support the program. They included themselves in it. Every show began with a group of Texaco singers and happy staff members dressed as guardian angels. Berle introduced exuberance to television after already making a reputation for himself in radio and vaudeville. His fast-paced jokes, humorous, clothes, and slapstick flair quickly got people talking. Every Tuesday night was different. This was more than just amusement. That was the point at which television genuinely permeated American culture. NBC wasn't sure about Berle at first. They experimented with several hosts, including Jack Carter, George Price, and My Amsterdam. Berle's initial contract was limited for 4 weeks. Jack Carter even took over as host in August 1948. However, no one could match Berle's outrageous sense of comedy and theatrics. On September 21, 1948, NBC officially announced it. The permanent host was Berle. He was more than simply a TV face. Mr. Television was his name. He became well known for his humor, outrageous outfits, and ability to engage the audience. The story was revealed by the ratings. Up to 80% of the TV viewers watched the show during its height. We can't even fathom that amount in the modern day. His popularity demonstrated that a single celebrity could propel a whole program and a whole sector. People weren't only captivated by Early's magic on screens. It sold more televisions than ever before. Approximately 500,000 television sets were in American homes in 1948. By 1949's conclusion, the figure had soared to 2 million. After watching Berle on Tuesday, family hurried to buy TVs, and every Wednesday, retailers ran out of them. It was dubbed the Berle effect. In addition to altering watching habits, his program contributed to the development of the entire television industry. Over 30 million TV sets were in American homes by the end of Berle's tenure in 1956. Berle possessed that kind of strength. Uncle Miltie's moniker appeared out of thin air. Berle made the joke, "Listen to your uncle, Miltie, and go to bed." During a 1949 performance, one line was trapped. Millions of fans suddenly felt like family to Berle. He was viewed as a member of the family by both parents and children. It was more than a moniker. It demonstrated the profound connections that television might make. Earl wasn't merely amusing the country, he was tying everything together. America seemed to pause every Tuesday night for Berle. Movie theaters close at 8 p.m. Restaurants closed early. Everyone rushed home. In order to avoid missing the performance, guests at Lindy's in New York hurried to pay their checks. Between 9 and 9:05 p.m., the water levels in Detroit's city reservoirs decreased. To use the restroom, everyone had to wait until after the performance. Living rooms weren't the only spaces filled by Texaco Star Theater. It influenced the weekly schedule of the country. Tuesday night became a shared national occasion. As a result, Berle was at the top of the globe by 1951. He signed a 30-year contract with NBC paying $200,000 annually. Today, that amounts to almost $1.5 million annually. Whether he worked or not made no difference. All NBC wanted was to prevent him from leaving. The money continued to flow even after his popularity declined, even if the sum was reduced. During their 1966 renegotiation, the agreement remains one of the most amazing in TV history. The 19,501 season demonstrated the extent of Berle's show's growth. It had a 61.6 Nielsen rating. This indicates that more than 6 out of 10 TV-owning households watched him each week. There isn't another show like it today. Texaco Star Theater was more than just a show back then. It was a nationwide occurrence. It was must-see TV because of the combination of vaudeville, special guests, and Berle's outrageous costumes. By the time he resigned in 1956, TV sales had increased from 500,000 to over 30 million sets thanks to his ratings. Berle's humor has no bounds. For laughter, he would frequently dress in drag. This is the unexpected part though. Cross-dressing was prohibited in many jurisdictions in the 1950s, because he made sure everyone knew he wasn't gay. Berle was able to stay out of trouble. He was able to get away with actions that might have led to others being imprisoned because of that double standard. His drag performances weren't merely amusing. They challenged preconceived notions about comedy and gender and pushed limits. Berle stood up for what was right as well. Berle declined to continue when Texaco attempted to stop the Four Step Brothers, a black dance group, from performing. He said to Texaco just minutes before broadcast, "If they don't go on, I don't go on." Texaco complied. The color barrier for variety shows was broken by the Four Step Brothers' live performance. It was a courageous action that paved the way for black performers across the years of Milton Berle's life were filled with heartache, betrayal, love, and celebrity. In 1941, he wed showgirl Joyce Matthews for the first time. It was a catastrophe practically from the beginning. The true issue wasn't limited to the husband and wife relationship. Sarah Berle's mother was there. She was the quintessential controlling stage mother. Berle even jokingly claimed to have transformed Gypsy Rose Lee's mother into Mary Poppins. Berle felt conflicted. He wasn't sure if he should win over his mother or his wife. The drama continued after the marriage ended in 1947. Berle and Matthews made another attempt in 1949. In an attempt to start again, they got married again, but nothing had changed. In 1950, a second divorce resulted from the same inner struggle. The destruction was extensive. Matthews attempted suicide in her married lover Billy Rose's house following their second breakup. The controversy damaged Berle's reputation. Later on, he acknowledged that his mother's dominance not only destroyed his marriages, but also stoked his desire to have countless relationships to demonstrate his manhood. Whether they were genuine or not, these affairs became legendary. Berle asserted that he had dated celebrities such as Amy Seal McPherson, Marilyn Monroe, Betty Hutton, and Dorothy Kill. In 1948, the Monroe narrative began on the Ladies of the Chorus set. She was said to as a lady who respected herself by Berle, who talked well of her. However, years later, in 1960, when they collaborated on Let's Make Love, Monroe allegedly said she couldn't even recall their relationship. It must have hurt. His most ludicrous assertion concerned the well-known evangelist McPherson. In his book, Berle detailed covert meetings, but McPherson's family and biographers deemed this to be untrue. Whether true or not, these tales depicted a man who was trying to break out from his mother's shadow and demonstrate that he wasn't merely a mama's boy. In 1953, following two unsuccessful marriages to Matthews, Berle wed Ruth Cosgrove. Ruth, a well-known publicist, was 45 years old, and Berle appeared to have found serenity for once. Before Ruth passed away from cancer in 1989, this marriage lasted 36 years. However, the wounds caused by his mother's dominance never went away. Berle said that even this marriage was plagued by his mother's meddling.